Clara Nathan stared at her phone at 11:47 p.m., her thumb hovering over the send button. The message read, "Melanie, I found 3 more industry contacts who can help with your interview. Also attached my notes from when I interviewed there last year. You've got this." She pressed send, then whispered a prayer. "God, if I help her win, we'll both win." How wrong she was. For 3 years, Clara and Melanie had been inseparable at Coltinson Marketing. They shared lunch breaks, weekend coffee dates, and dreams of climbing the corporate ladder together. When the executive director position opened up, the job Clara had been quietly preparing for since she started, Melanie burst into tears. "Clara, I can't compete with you," Melanie had sobbed in the break room. "You're so qualified, so prepared. I don't stand a chance." That's when Clara made the decision that would haunt her for months. Instead of seeing Melanie as competition, she saw her as a sister in need. "We're not competing," Clara said, rubbing Melanie's shoulder. "We're both applying, but I'm going to help you succeed." Over the next 2 weeks, Clara became Melanie's unpaid consultant. She shared her network, edited Melanie's resume until it sparkled, conducted mock interviews, and even gave her the presentation ideas she'd been developing for months. "You're literally the best friend anyone could ask for," Melanie gushed after their final prep session. "I promise, no matter what happens, this won't change us." The morning of Melanie's interview, Clara prayed for her success. She believed with her whole heart that lifting others up was how God operated. She believed loyalty was rewarded. She believed friendship was sacred. The call came 3 days later. Melanie got the job. Clara's heart broke and soared simultaneously. She was disappointed, yes, but overwhelmed with joy for her friend. She immediately called Melanie. It went straight to voicemail. 3 days of silence stretched into a week. Clara told herself Melanie was busy with transition meetings. Work had probably consumed her schedule. She'd call soon. She didn't. Clara tried again. Voicemail. She sent a text. "Hey, heard you got the position. So proud of you. Can't wait to celebrate." The message showed as read immediately. No response. Another week passed. Clara watched from her desk as Melanie strutted through the office in her new power suits, accepting congratulations from colleagues. Melanie's eyes would briefly meet Clara's across the room, then quickly look away. The realization hit Clara like ice water. She was being ghosted by her best friend, the person she had sacrificed her own chances to help. Clara's coworker Janet noticed her distress. "Honey, I hate to say this, but some people change the moment they get power. Maybe Melanie's one of them." "No," Clara insisted, though doubt was creeping in. "She's probably just overwhelmed. 3 years of friendship don't disappear overnight." But they did. At the company holiday party, Clara watched Melanie laugh and network as if Clara didn't exist. When Clara finally approached her by the punch bowl, Melanie's response was arctic. "Clara, hi, how's things?" "Things?" Clara repeated, stunned. "Melanie, we haven't talked in a month. Are you okay? Are we okay?" Melanie glanced around nervously as if being seen with Clara was embarrassing. "Yeah, of course. I'm just super busy with the new role. You understand." But her body language screamed otherwise. She took a step back. Her smile was plastic. This wasn't the Melanie who had cried on Clara's shoulder. "Maybe we could grab lunch this week, like old times? I'll check my calendar and get back to you." She never did. That night, Clara sat in her car in the parking garage and cried until her chest hurt. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal. It was the death of a friendship she had valued more than her own ambition. She whispered through tears, "God, I don't understand. I did the right thing. Why does it hurt so much?" The silence in that parking garage was deafening. 2 months later, Clara's manager called her into his office. "Clara, we're restructuring. You're being transferred to the executive marketing division." Clara's heart leaped. A promotion? Recognition for her hard work? "You'll be reporting directly to Melanie Davis, the new executive director." The blood drained from Clara's face. Report to Melanie? The friend who had ghosted her after she helped secure the position? "Is there a problem?" her manager asked, noticing her expression. Clara forced a smile. "No, sir. Just surprised." Surprised was an understatement. She was horrified. Monday morning, Clara knocked on Melanie's new corner office. The nameplate on the door gleamed. Melanie Davis, Executive Director. "Come in," came the cold voice from inside. Melanie sat behind a massive mahogany desk, not looking up from her computer. The office was pristine. Leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive art on the walls. Everything Clara had dreamed of having. "Clara, sit." No warmth, no acknowledgement of their history, just business. "I've reviewed your work portfolio. You'll be handling the Easton account, the Patterson project, and assisting with quarterly reports. I expect detailed updates every morning at 8 a.m. sharp." Clara nodded, still trying to process the surreal situation. "Melanie? Can we?" "Ms. Davis," Melanie corrected sharply. "In this office, it's Ms. Davis." The words hit like a slap. Clara felt her cheeks burn. "Of course, Ms. Davis." Over the following weeks, Clara discovered that working under Melanie was a special kind of hell. Every idea Clara presented was dismissed or claimed as Melanie's own. Every success was minimized. Every minor mistake was magnified and documented. "Clara, this presentation needs work," Melanie would announce in team meetings, though privately she'd praise the same presentation hours earlier. Clara began to understand. Melanie saw her as a threat. The person who had helped her get the job was now viewed as someone who might take it away. In one particularly humiliating team meeting, Melanie interrupted Clara mid-presentation. "I think what Clara is trying to say is that we need to reconsider our approach. Let me clarify her points." She then proceeded to repeat Clara's exact words, receiving nods of approval from the room. After the meeting, Clara lingered, hoping to address the situation privately. "Was there something else?" Melanie asked, not looking up from her phone. "You just repeated everything I said and took credit for it." Melanie's eyes turned ice cold. "I improved upon your presentation. That's what good leaders do. If you have a problem with my management style, you're free to request a transfer." But Clara knew there was nowhere to go. Melanie had positioned herself perfectly. She was untouchable, and Clara was trapped under her thumb. That night, Clara knelt beside her bed and prayed, "God, I feel like David facing Goliath, but unlike David, I don't see any stones to throw. Help me endure this. Help me not become bitter." She had no idea that someone was watching every humiliation, every act of grace under pressure. 6 months under Melanie's management taught Clara things about herself she never knew existed. She discovered she was stronger than she'd imagined, more patient, more forgiving, but also more lonely. Every morning, Clara arrived at 7:45 a.m. for her 8 a.m. update meeting. Every morning, Melanie found fault with something. Her email tone was too casual, her reports too detailed, her suggestions not strategic enough. "Clara, I need you to understand," Melanie said during one particularly brutal feedback session. "Excellence isn't optional in this division. If you can't meet our standards, perhaps you'd be better suited elsewhere." The threat was clear: shape up or ship out. That Sunday, Clara sat in the second pew of New Hope Baptist Church, listening to Pastor Williams preach about loving your enemies. Jesus said, "Pray for those who persecute you," the pastor declared, "not because they deserve it, but because prayer changes the person praying." Clara felt the words pierce her heart. She'd been asking God to change Melanie, to soften her heart, to make her remember their friendship. But maybe God wanted to change Clara instead. That week, Clara began a radical experiment. Instead of defending herself when Melanie criticized her publicly, she simply said, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll work on that." When Melanie took credit for Clara's ideas, Clara remained silent and focused on the next project. When Melanie assigned her impossible deadlines, Clara worked the late without complaint. "You're letting her walk all over you," Janet observed one evening as Clara stayed behind to finish a presentation that was originally due the following week. "I'm choosing my battles, and maybe more importantly, I'm choosing my character." Clara developed a routine. Every morning before her meeting with Melanie, she prayed, "God, help me see her the way you see her. Help me respond with grace." It wasn't easy. Some days Clara wanted to scream. Other days she wanted to quit. But something inside her, a quiet strength she'd never accessed before, kept her anchored. She began to notice things others missed. Melanie's hands shook slightly during high-pressure meetings. She often stayed late long after everyone else had gone home. She wore exhaustion like an expensive perfume, trying to cover it up, but not quite succeeding. Clara realized that Melanie wasn't just threatened by her, she was terrified. Terrified of being found out, of not being good enough, of losing what she'd gained through deception. Instead of hatred, Clara began to feel something unexpected: pity. One Thursday evening, Clara found Melanie still in her office at 9 p.m., head in her hands. "Miss Davis, are you okay?" Melanie looked up, eyes red with exhaustion. For a moment, she looked like the vulnerable friend who had once cried in the break room. But the mask quickly returned. "I'm fine. Don't you have somewhere to be?" "I was just checking on you," Clara said gently. Something flickered across Melanie's face, maybe even gratitude, before the walls went back up. "I don't need checking on. Good night, Clara." But as Clara walked to the elevator, she heard something that made her heart ache: the sound of quiet crying from behind Melanie's closed door. That night, Clara prayed not for herself, but for the broken woman who had once been her best friend. She had no idea that her prayers and her character were being carefully observed by someone who had the power to change everything.
It started with a phone call at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Clara's phone buzzed as she was getting ready for work. Janet's name flashed on the screen. "Clara, are you watching the news?" "No, why? What's wrong?" "Turn on Channel 7, now." Clara grabbed the remote and her jaw dropped. The headline read, "Local Marketing Executive Under Investigation for Fraud." Melanie's professional headshot filled the screen. The reporter's voice was crisp and serious. "Melanie Davis, Executive Director of Davidson Marketing's Premier Division, is being investigated for allegedly inflating client numbers and misappropriating funds intended for the Easton account, an account worth over $2.3 million. Clara sank onto her couch, remote trembling in her hand. The Easton account, the one Melanie had assigned her to handle 6 months ago. By the time Clara arrived at the office, it was chaos. FBI agents were carrying boxes out of the building, employees clustered in hushed groups, whispering and speculating. The elevator was packed with people trying to get to the executive floor to see what was happening. "Did you know?" someone asked Clara as they rode up together. "Know what?" "That she was stealing. You worked closest with her." Clara shook her head, genuinely stunned. "I had no idea." But as the day unfolded and more details emerged, pieces began clicking into place. The late nights Melanie spent alone in her office, the way she'd insisted on handling all client communications personally, her paranoia about Clara's access to certain files. The company called an emergency meeting at 2 p.m. CEO Robert Aaron stood at the front of the packed conference room, his usual calm demeanor replaced with visible frustration. "As you know, serious allegations have been made against one of our executives. Effective immediately, Melanie Davis has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation." Murmurs rippled through the room. "I want to be clear that this company was built on integrity, and we will not tolerate any behavior that compromises that foundation." Clara watched from the back of the room, feeling a complex mix of emotions. She wasn't happy about Melanie's downfall, but she couldn't deny a sense of justice being served. After the meeting, Clara returned to her desk to find it surrounded by investigators and accountants. "Ma'am, we need to review all your work on the Easton account," one of the FBI agents said. "You've been identified as the primary handler of day-to-day operations." Clara's heart raced. "Am I in trouble?" "It depends on what we find." For the next 4 hours, Clara sat with investigators, explaining every decision, every email, every transaction related to the Easton account. Her meticulous record-keeping, which Melanie had often criticized as excessive, now became her salvation. "Miss Nathan," the lead investigator said finally, "it appears you were completely unaware of the fraudulent activity. In fact, your detailed documentation is helping us understand the scope of Miss Davidson's deception." Relief washed over Clara, followed immediately by sadness. Melanie hadn't just betrayed their friendship. She'd built her success on lies. As Clara packed up her desk that evening, she found herself thinking about the broken woman she'd glimpsed behind Melanie's mask. Power gained through deception was no power at all. It was a house of cards, always one breath away from collapse. She whispered a prayer. God, I don't know what happens next, but thank you for protecting me, and please help Melanie find her way back to truth. Clara had no idea that tomorrow would bring the most shocking revelation of all.
Clara arrived at work the next morning expecting another day of uncertainty. The executive floor was eerily quiet. Melanie's office sat empty, the blinds gone. At 9 a.m., Clara received an email that made her read it 3 times to believe it. Ms. Nathan, please report to CEO Robert Aaron's office immediately. Her palms were sweaty as she rode the elevator to the top floor. She'd never been to the CEO's office. She'd barely spoken to him beyond polite hellos in the hallway. His assistant smiled warmly. Go right in, dear. He's expecting you. Robert Aaron's office was impressive but not ostentatious. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. Awards and family photos lined the walls. But what struck Clara most was the man himself. Calm, observant, with eyes that seemed to see everything. Clara, please sit. His voice was warm, paternal. I imagine you're wondering why you're here. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Tell me, he said, leaning back in his chair. What did you think of Melanie Davis as a manager? The question got her off guard. Was this a test? Was he trying to see if she'd badmouth a fallen colleague? She was demanding, Clara said carefully. She had high standards. Aaron smiled slightly. That's a diplomatic answer, but I'm not asking for diplomacy. I'm asking for honesty. Clara took a breath. She was threatened by me. She took credit for my work, undermined me in meetings, and made my job much harder than it needed to be. And how did you respond to that treatment? I did my job. I tried to be respectful. I focused on the work, not the politics. Aaron nodded slowly. Clara, I'm going to share something with you that might surprise you. For the past 8 months, I've been conducting a quiet assessment of leadership potential within this company, not through formal reviews or interviews, but through observation. Clara's heart began to race. I watched how both you and Melanie handled pressure, success, and adversity. I saw how she treated you after receiving the promotion you helped her secure. I witnessed your grace under fire, your integrity when no one was looking, and your loyalty, even to someone who didn't deserve it. Tears began to form in Clara's eyes. I also reviewed the investigation findings. Do you know what they revealed about your work? Clara shook her head. Perfection. Every transaction documented, every decision justified, every client interaction professional and honest. While Melanie was building her success on deception, you were quietly building yours on integrity. Aaron stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Clara, I've been in business for 30 years. I've seen ambitious people destroy themselves and humble people rise beyond their wildest dreams. Character, not talent, determines long-term success. He turned back to face her. I'm offering you the position of executive director effective immediately, the same position Melanie held, with a 40% salary increase and full authority over the division. Clara's mouth opened. Sir, I don't understand. I never even applied for. You didn't need to apply, Aaron interrupted gently. You interviewed for 8 months without knowing it. Every time you chose kindness over retaliation, honesty over politics, hard work over shortcuts, you were interviewing. Clara began to cry, not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude and disbelief. There's something else, Aaron continued. The Easton account that was at the center of the fraud investigation. Because of your impeccable handling and documentation, we're not only keeping the client, we're expanding the contract. They specifically requested that you remain as the primary contact. Clara could barely speak. Mr. Aaron, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Through her tears, Clara nodded. Yes, sir. As she left Aaron's office with a new title, new salary, and new responsibilities, Clara felt like she was floating. In the elevator, she whispered, "Thank you, God. You really were watching." The elevator doors opened, and Clara stepped into her new life, one built on integrity, faith, and the unshakable truth that doing right, even when no one is watching, always leads to elevation. But the story wasn't over yet. 3 months into her new role as executive director, Clara sat in the same corner office that had once belonged to Melanie. But the atmosphere was completely different. Where Melanie had ruled through fear and competition, Clara led through encouragement and collaboration. Where Melanie had hoarded information and credit, Clara shared knowledge and celebrated her team's successes. The changes were immediate and dramatic. Team morale soared. Productivity increased by 35%. Client satisfaction ratings reached an all-time high. But for Clara, the greatest change was internal. Every morning, she still arrived early, but instead of dreading a confrontational meeting, she spent those quiet moments in prayer and reflection. She'd learned that leadership wasn't about commanding from a throne. It was about serving from the heart. One afternoon, Janet knocked on her door with a concerned expression. "Clara, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but it's Melanie." Clara's heart skipped. She hadn't seen or spoken to Melanie since the investigation began. Through the office grapevine, she'd heard that Melanie was facing federal charges, had lost her house, and was working at a small nonprofit while awaiting trial. "Send her in." Melanie entered the office looking nothing like the polished executive who had once ruled this space. Her clothes were simple, her makeup minimal, her demeanor humble. But there was something in her eyes Clara hadn't seen in years. Genuine emotion. "Clara," Melanie began, her voice barely a whisper, "I know I have no right to be here. I know I don't deserve your time or your attention, but I needed to say something." Clara gestured to the chair across from her desk, the same chair where she'd once sat as the subordinate. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. "I'm sorry," Melanie continued, tears streaming down her face. "Not just for the fraud or the investigation or losing the company money. I'm sorry for what I did to you, to our friendship, to the person I used to be." Clara felt her own eyes filling with tears. "You helped me get this job, and I repaid you by treating you like an enemy. You showed me kindness, and I responded with cruelty. You were loyal, and I was treacherous." Melanie's voice broke. "I destroyed the best friendship I ever had because I was so afraid of not being good enough." Clara leaned forward. "Melanie, please let me finish." Melanie took a shaky breath. "When I was arrested, when I lost everything, I had a lot of time to think. I realized that the job I stole through deception cost me everything real in my life, my integrity, my friendships, my peace. But you lost the job and gained something I never had. Respect, genuine success, and peace with yourself." Clara reached across the desk and took Melanie's hand. "I forgave you months ago." Melanie looked up in shock. "What?" "I forgave you," Clara repeated. "Not because you deserved it, but because holding on to anger was poisoning my own heart. I've been praying for you every day since this began." Melanie broke down completely. "How could you pray for me after what I did?" Clara smiled through her tears. "Because that's what love does. Real love doesn't disappear when someone hurts you. It transforms the pain into something redemptive." They sat in silence for a moment. Two women who had traveled very different paths to arrive at the same understanding. "Clara, can I ask you something?" Melanie finally said. "How did you stay so strong? How did you keep your integrity when I was trying to tear you down?" Clara thought about the question carefully. "I learned that character isn't what you do when people are watching. It's who you are when they think no one cares. I thought no one was paying attention to how I handled your treatment, but I was wrong. God was watching. Mr. Aaron was watching, and most importantly, I was becoming the person I wanted to be, regardless of what anyone else did. Melanie nodded slowly. I spent so much energy trying to tear you down because I was afraid you'd expose how weak I really was. But you never tried to expose me. You just kept being you. And that's all any of us can do, Clara said. Control our own character. Trust that truth has a way of surfacing. Believe that integrity, even when it costs us in the short term, always pays dividends in the long run. As Melanie prepared to leave, she paused at the door. Clara, you're in the position you should have been in all along. I'm genuinely happy for you, and I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to remember who I used to be. After Melanie left, Clara stood at her office window looking out at the city below. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the betrayal, the humiliation, the months of silent endurance, and finally the unexpected elevation. She realized that every painful moment had been preparation. Every act of kindness in the face of cruelty had been a test. Every prayer whispered in desperation had been heard. Clara opened her desk drawer and pulled out a small framed verse she kept there. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. She had lived this verse without knowing it. The betrayal that was meant to destroy her had actually elevated her. The humiliation that was meant to break her had actually built her character. The silence that was meant to isolate her had actually taught her to depend on God. That evening, Clara called her mother. Mama, I learned something important today. What's that, baby? What elevation doesn't always come through fighting for what you deserve. Sometimes it comes through accepting what you don't deserve with grace. Sometimes the best promotion is the one you never applied for. Her mother clutched. Sounds like you finally understand what I've been trying to teach you your whole life. God's plans don't always make sense in the moment, but they're always better than our own. As Clara hung up the phone, she made a decision. Tomorrow, she would start a mentorship program for young professionals, especially those who felt overlooked or undervalued. She would teach them what she had learned, that character is built in the valleys, not on the mountaintops, that integrity is not just about doing the right thing when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, that sometimes the greatest victories look like defeats until God reveals his plan. 6 months later, Clara received a letter. The return address made her heart skip. It was from Melanie, who was serving her sentence at a minimum security facility. Dear Clara, I'm writing this from a place I never imagined I'd be, but also from a peace I never thought I'd find. Prison has given me something I never had when I was free. Time to think, to pray, and to remember who I really am. I started a Bible study here, and I tell your story often. Not the story of my betrayal, but the story of your grace. You showed these women what real strength looks like. Thank you for loving me when I couldn't love myself. Thank you for proving that doing right is never wrong, even when it feels like it is. You saved my soul by simply being yourself. Clara folded the letter carefully and placed it in her desk drawer next to the framed verse. The story had come full circle. The helper had become the leader. The betrayed had become the blessed. The humble had been elevated. But most importantly, 2 broken people had found healing. One through learning to forgive, the other through learning to receive forgiveness. Clara looked around her office one more time, then turned off the lights and headed home. She had learned the most important lesson of all. God's timing is perfect, his justice is sure, and his love can transform any betrayal into a blessing. As she walked to her car, she whispered one final prayer. Thank you, God, for loving me enough to elevate me through my pain. Help me never forget that true success isn't about the position I hold, but the person I become.